It's a whole lot of us, that's my family. Wanna go higher, turn up the tempo, increase the BPM, okay. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM.
What's up, guys? Chris Morgan. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we ask current or former athletes and coaches into this huddle, into this space to talk about their relationship with Christ, their story, what God has done, what he's doing, and what he's continuing to do. Blessed today to have one of my guys here that I love so much. I'm thankful that he's part of it. Reggie Bonnafon, thanks for being with us today. How you been, man?
Man, I've been good, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, man, you're somewhat, of a city legend here, so to speak, and that says a lot, as young as you are, to be somebody that people look to on the field, but off, man, you've just been such an ambassador for the city. So for you to be sitting here talking to us, man, is a treat, man. It's a joy to call you friend and brother. And so thanks for taking the time to do that. I know that a lot of people know Reggie, number 7, grew up at Trinity, all that stuff. But I want them to just kind of like a peek behind the curtain, so to speak. Tell us what it was like growing up in Louisville, just in your household as a young guy.
Yeah, so, man, I come from humble beginnings, I like to say. Grew up out towards like Highview area, Old Shep and Fern Valley. I'm the youngest sibling of 5 of a blended family. So, man, growing up, I wasn't anything special. You know what I mean? I was special in God's eyes for sure, but I was a young kid, athletic, just like to stay busy, and fell in love with the game of football early on. My mom put the ball in my hands, and yeah, man, it was a unique experience. Had some trials and tribulations along that way. Early on, I think around 5th grade, my mom had a reaction to medicine, and we were actually leaving school one day, and she picked me up. She was a nurse for 20 years, and man, one day we just going home, probably like 3 minutes away from home, and that reaction must have hit and it clicked, and we were in the car, and my mom literally just went black.
Really?
Yeah, behind the wheel, and I steered us home. Somehow she was still able.
And you were how old at this time?
Was it 10, 11.
Yeah.
And my dad was at work, brothers, after school activities and stuff like that. So it was all on me, man. Everything slowed down. Unfortunately, my mom was never able to work again. So bro was kind of reverse. And I typically, was there to always take care of my mom from then on out. My dad, he worked his tail off to provide for us. And yeah, since then, that was kind of the moment where I knew that, life was real. Unfortunately, it was a little bit earlier than, some of my peers. But I think it caused me to grow up a little bit and put things into perspective as far as like what I wanted to accomplish or what the mission was for me, for sure.
Yeah. Man, you've always been a guy that's been very outspoken about your mom and your dad. You're so respectful and love to put them in the light, and to as the Bible would say, to honor them, to esteem them and hold them up. You've always been really good at that. It doesn't seem like sports were pressed upon you, but sports were embraced because you were gifted. What sports did you like to play?
Yeah, so in my family, actually, we were a baseball family. So my dad, he played college baseball. My uncle played college baseball, played a little time in the minor leagues. Still have a little cousin right now who's playing with the Rockies organization. So baseball's always been our deal. And it looked to be the case for me. Starting off in 6th grade, I was starting varsity high school baseball. So I lettered varsity 3 years in middle school.
Wow.
And was traveling, probably one of the best, little leaguers in the nation, so to say. And man, just got burnt out. Like, I played football, but I was only playing quarterback because I played baseball. That type of deal. That type of deal. And man, it was one game I was playing baseball, and for whatever reason, I knew it wasn't it for me. And you know, in our house we had a rule, you know, we don't raise quitters. Yeah. And I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't want to play no more. So he was like, all right. He was like, look, you gonna call your coach? I must have been like 12 at the time. He was like, you gonna call your coach, you're gonna tell him you don't want to play no more if that's what you really want to do. And I did, and the conversation must have been like 45 seconds.
Wow.
So my dad, you know, I give him back his phone. He looks at the call out. He's like, ain't no way you called him and told him that quick. So he calls my coach back like, hey, you just talked to Reg? He was like, yeah, everything okay? He was like, I guess so. And never played baseball again. And went all in on football, going into 9th grade. And that was it.
So was it always Trinity? Was it Trinity from the beginning, or was it kind of like, you know, what other schools? I mean, what's even in your district? What was the school that you were?
Yeah, so I went to Moore Middle School. So for me, that looked to be as if it was either going to be like Moore or Fern Creek to start off with, and just growing up in that environment, you know. Thankfully, I was in a middle school and high school, so I could see what high school was having to offer. And you know, for me, I was just a little bit distracted by the females at the time, right? Yeah. Wasn't performing well in class, and came across Trinity. And a lot of people don't know, like Trinity never like recruited me at a little league game or told me, you know, you're a good football player, you need to come here. Yeah, it was solely based off of me just wanting to perform better in school, and I knew. In order to do that, I needed to eliminate girls in my class because they were just, you know, mean at the time. But whatever the case was, I used to wear glasses. They used to, you know, joke on me. And, you know, I approached my parents. I was like, look, if y'all pay for me to go to Trinity, y'all not going to pay for me to go to college. And my dad, being the guy that he was like, all right. So he goes out in the room, brings back a white sheet of paper, writes a couple of words, sentences, draws an X on the line, and makes me sign it. Yeah. And I'm in 8th grade, so that was like my first contract. And I held true to that. A couple of years later, got my first offer from U of L, and you know, we celebrated, of course, and you know, I just appreciate them making that sacrifice, and that's really why, you know what I mean, as they should get a lot of credit, because I mean, like I said, my mom didn't work after 5th grade, so my dad was a psych ward nurse. So he wasn't making a ton of money. So, you know, there's been a lot of times where, you know, we didn't know how we were gonna make it happen. In some way they did. So, you know, I'm always grateful for them, and that's why, you know, I've always just tried to shine light on them for the sacrifices they made in order for me to have the platform I have now.
Yeah, Trinity, you know, Trinity and X, you know, I'm from Louisville, so, you know, you had the males, you had the St. X, the Trinities, you know, and some of the public schools from time to time rise up, man, and you get a lot of competition. But at the forefront is always Trinity and St. X and male. It's always been that. So the desire to play college ball was set on you before you went to Trinity, you know. So yeah. So you go to Trinity. You know, how many state championships did you win? 3 state championships, and I still remember, you know, obviously. You were starting to get recruited. I remember when Coach Strong and that staff. So you came out to some of the practices, and you know, I had seen you around, and we developed, you know, a friendship just even when you're getting recruited. And so tell us about that recruiting process. You know, obviously from Louisville, you want to go and you want to represent the city, which you did. But was there ever a thought like, man, maybe, I don't know, maybe should I go elsewhere?
I would say not too much, just because Louisville was the first school to like really show me attention and show me that, you know, we're interested and we want you to stay home, right? But for me, man, that experience, it was unique, unlike a lot of people, solely because, you know, I was getting recruited and my name was getting out in the recruiting process as a quarterback, but due to being at a school like Trinity, I actually didn't start quarterback until my senior year of high school. So prior to that, my junior year, I played receiver. And then sophomore year, I was just playing JV. And we were stacked. So my strategy was, at the time, I would just go to camps and, you know, perform. So coming to find out years later, a lot of times schools would think I was the starting quarterback for Trinity just on how I was performing at these camps, not knowing I was actually the backup. Yeah. So, I think I received an offer from Louisville going into my junior year that summer. And from then, the ball just started rolling. Guys, like teams started to understand, I was just on a stacked team that, I had potential. And I just continued to go to these different camps and, show my worth, so to say. And thankfully, my dad would allow me to, he would sacrifice again to, drive me to these different places. And Louisville just always showed me that love and that connection. So,
well, yeah, that was reciprocated from you to Louisville and from Louisville to you. And that's I've always said that Louisville embraces its own, whether that's high school, whether that's college. They really rally around the athletes that come here. Mm-hmm. And so you come to University of Louisville, you start to make a difference on and off the field. I said earlier, an ambassador. Then, adversity hits. You start three-time state champion, high school. Maybe it come a little bit easier in high school just because you're so much more talented than everybody else. Now you're coming into a group where everybody's talented.
Yeah.
And adversity hits on the field, but also off the field. Talk to us a little bit about just adversity during your college time.
Yeah, man. So, and we already had a connection, prior to me getting on campus. But when we got on campus, it wasn't too long into that journey that we even got even closer, right? I think, yeah, it was. So we was going. I think we had just finished our third game. We were up in Virginia. Like you said, it was a rocky transition to begin. Like you said, everybody just being really good at this level in college, and I had some ups and downs, but I was lucky enough to be one of the only freshmen in my class to be playing at the time. And we went up to Virginia. They had a good team. I played a little bit, not well enough to finish out the game, and we flew back that night. Sunday, the perk of being a hometown kid is you can go home, right? So I go home, reviewing the game with my pops. Mom got some food at the table, we just chopping it up. And, I left home around, I guess, 6 o'clock, had an 8 a.m. class the next morning. And, still a freshman, you don't got your schedule all ironed out. So you might miss an alarm or lifting or something like that. Those are things that, just happen when you get acclimated to campus. And I get a call at maybe like 4:45, 5 o'clock, and I'm jumping up. I'm thinking this weightlifting coach calling me, thinking I missed something. It's actually the hospital calling. They're like, who's Wallace Bonnafon in relation to you? I'm like, it's my dad. And at the time he had, been taking dialysis, and they were like, well, he's at the emergency room right now. We can't get a hold of your mom. You guys got to get here ASAP. Hung up the phone. That's it. So I'm like, all right. So get up, get in the car, drive to go get my mom. She's not answering. Knocking on the door. She finally answers the door. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what's going on. Dad's not okay. We got to go. Mm-hmm. We get to the hospital. At this time, get to the front desk, let them know who we're there for. They tell us to walk around and put us in this small room. And at this time, my dad, she's, in and out the hospital at times or doing dialysis and things of that nature. So I'm not thinking too much of it. And at this time, like, my mom's distraught because she was a twin. She lost her twin when they were, I believe, like 28. And she knew something was wrong. And I'm, trying to calm her down. A couple of minutes later, doctor walks in and lets us know my dad's passed away, been cold blue 7 times at that point, might not have been 8 o'clock. And, obviously gut-wrenching, seeing my mom basically just fall out in the middle of the hospital. And, not too long after that, obviously just black out for a second. You don't know what's going on. And just about when I came to, the first person I remember seeing is you. And, you just embraced me and prayed for me, prayed for my family, and stayed there the whole time. And, yeah, man, it was crazy. It was crazy. Did not expect it. But at the same time, my dad always would say certain things to kind of prepare me. You know what I mean? He knew, I think, more than anybody that his time was coming. And I remember one time he told me, he was like, "Man, look, doctor just told me my kidneys are at 5%. I need a donor." And I told him, I was like, "You can have mine." And he was like, "Nah, I ain't gonna do that. You got some work to do." And that still sticks with me, just because I know he's watching, and all the things I accomplished, I feel like we accomplished because, he poured into me everything that, he might not have been able to do. So took that week to obviously grieve and, bury my father. And family, we're sitting there. We went to FIU. So I didn't travel with the team that week. And after the service, as a football family, we can't help but watch the cards. We're watching the game. And Will goes down, starting quarterback at the time. And man, I'll never forget it. Everybody in the room just turns and looks at me. And I'm sitting there watching. And it wasn't too long after that, Coach Petrino calls me and was like, "Yo, you up next week."
Yeah.
And it was one of our first home games, or second. And that following week, I made my first start. We played Wake Forest. Ended up making a pretty decent game. We got out with a win.
Man, there was so much you said in that, man, which was so good.
Yeah.
I do remember. I loved your dad, man. Your dad was an awesome guy that loved you, man, and loved watching you, and he was your biggest fan. And just going up there and loving on your mom and loving on you and praying with you guys. People do remember that. People do remember when you show up, but just leaving there, like, man, that weighed on me. That was hard on me, just to see a young man, go through that. But you handled that, and you still handle that so well, man. That's why I just know that you had such a great relationship with your parents, and you still do. Just hold them up and esteem them so well. What's something that, like, I say this a lot to people that whether it's a parent or whether it's a kid or something that's passed away, what do you feel like you missed the most?
Man. Man, some of those hard days, man, and I think now more than ever, just being a father, some of those conversations that I can't have, on those tough days, and just being a man sometimes, that being a husband, some of those trials that you have. I get emotional just even thinking about it, man, because he was, like you're saying, he was a special dude, man. Yeah. I mean, he was my little league coach my whole life, and even when he was alive, like, I would have teammates that I played at Trinity with, that I played with in Little League or wherever the case was, and they'd be like, "Man, if it wasn't for your dad, I don't know where I'd be."
Yeah,
and he's not their father, so just to know the impact that he had, man, sometimes I would just love to still have those conversations with him, still hug him, what I mean? Just be his son,
Yeah. Well, he was an advocate for you, a protector for you. When you come around, he's there. He's asking the questions that maybe you didn't feel of asking, and then just now you being, like you said, a husband and a father, that I've seen enough just how you walk with Kennedy and how you walk with the children. Just like that's carried over. You saw enough of your dad, and there's so much of your father in you that spills out into your everyday life, and it continued to, and I saw you come back and how you dealt with that, Wake Forest, and you continue to lead. Now it's thrust upon you to lead the team.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever get over grief of that, but you learn how to just kind of manage it, push through, and allow it to go with you. You did that. What's some of your highlights? If you had to give maybe a top 2 or 3, however you want to, you can vomit them out, or you just kind of go slowly with them, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
What just your playing career at University of Louisville? What's some of those?
Yeah. Number one that sticks out, I think everybody goes to it, is the first meeting at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's funny, my dad, the schedule came out obviously prior to him passing away. And for whatever reason, he circled that Notre Dame game, was like, hey, this is the one. Y'all playing at Notre Dame, like, that's going to be the game. And, there was some ups and downs throughout that year as far as me playing quarterback. And once again, injury happens. Notre Dame week comes up. They like, Reg, it's you. And I'll never forget it. That was probably the best week of practice I ever had at quarterback. We go down there, South Bend, and bring home the victory. First meeting ever. It was like 80,000 there, man. And it was just a special moment. I think a special moment for me because I knew that was a game that my dad had circled, when the schedule was released. And then past that, I mean, I'm really proud of just the way that I, fought through adversity. That following year, started off playing quarterback, things didn't work out. Lamar, came on campus, and there for a minute, there was another obstacle. Like, man, do I stay? Do I go? It's well before the transfer portal, so I wasn't sure about, what was on the other side. And, through a lot of prayer and, conversations with my mom and everything like that, it was just put on my heart to just be still and, let things work themselves out, and ended up playing receiver, playing running back, and
you would have kicked it. You would have punted, man. You would have played offensive line. You probably one of the most selfless people when it comes to being on the field. You would have done anything that was asked upon you.
Most definitely. And now I like to think that, even with the greatness that we witnessed with Lamar and, guys like Malik, I still like to think I'm probably, if not the most versatile player to ever play at Louisville. So to play 3 positions at a D1 level and actually produce at every position that I played in, I think that's really what I'm probably most proud of, honestly, just because you don't hear a lot of people going through that, let alone staying in one spot and making that happen. So, man, I was just always honored and blessed to even play for the university. Like I said, it wasn't easy getting a scholarship. It was not easy to stay home in your hometown and go to college and, keep your priorities in check and still, produce on the field and do your academics and everything like that. So, and all, man, I was just proud to be a Car. I still am.
Well, you can tell that, man. And you carry that versatility of just being so versatile on the field. You carry that throughout your life, man, where you can really kind of navigate through situations and really become what you need to be at the time. And although I've seen a lot of athletes that when leave their sport and they graduate and you got a chance to play, the NFL for a few years, and we could talk about that, but a person's identity becomes in their sport. That you play a game from Little League, Pop Warner, all the way up to the NFL, where you got a chance to do that. It's hard when some of that stuff is snatched away from you,
Definitely,
or taken away from you, really.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that. You got the blessing of playing the NFL. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about just, you leave University of Louisville and you go, what's some stops that you had in the NFL?
Yeah, so leaving U of L, went undrafted to Carolina, ended up staying there 4 years, and great time. Really, the first time I was away from home, so really was able to, just come into my own. Great city of Charlotte, loved it there, and yeah, it was really a fun experience. Great organization, great people around me. Man,
Could you tell that it was really like? Could you tell like, okay, I went from like a city that embraced me to a football program that knows who I am to a business where it's a business now. Could you tell the difference between
yeah,
this is business now?
100%. And it's crazy too. God always had his hand on me. Starting off, man, I undrafted a 90-man roster. I'm probably like 88. You know what I mean? So it was a long shot for me to even make the team, practice squad, anything. And there was one play in particular that really caused, in my time here at Louisville, that caused the shift in me changing positions. And it was really due to a lack of effort, more so than anything else. And that same play happened again probably 4 years later in the preseason game. We're getting blown out. And that same play occurred. And that play from 4 years ago flashed before me. And I didn't hesitate. And I capitalized on it. And because of that play is the only reason why I even got a shot to be on the practice team. And from there, just stuck around, worked hard, was the same guy. Ended up getting the opportunity to make the 53-man roster that following year. And, man, like you said, it definitely is a business. It definitely was a business. But I think it was needed for me. It was cool to kind of get the notoriety of, people watching my career from high school to college and, being, I guess, a fan favorite or whatever you call it. But to be somewhere where everything was earned and nobody really too much cared about any of that, it was cool for me because I knew that the only thing that I was going to have to do or needed to do to get the attention was put in the work. And I never had a problem doing that. So
You never did.
Yeah.
And then, so you got 4 good years.
Yeah.
Good years in the NFL where that a lot of people don't get that. There's very few, 1% probably go to that next. If it's even that, it's probably lower than that. But you got to accomplish that, and then you realize that it wasn't in the cards, and that's what I talked about earlier about your identity being in a sport. That's hard for people to. How did you deal with that? Okay, now I am a former football player.
Yeah.
How did you initially deal with that?
Not good at all. To be fully transparent, not good at all. And I had to ask for forgiveness, with God, just because, you get to the NFL a lot of times. Obviously, the game's on Sunday. You miss church. I remember, matter of fact, one time that you were able to speak with our team in Indy, and we'd go to chapel and things like that, but was a little bit distant from God, and for a little bit, and man, did he come crashing back in when I needed him the most. And there was a rough patch there, just like you're saying, that identity of realizing like, man, I picked up the ball when I was 5, stepped away from the game. I was 27. So 20 plus years of giving, your all to something. And then it was my decision to walk away from the game, but it doesn't matter if it is or not. Like you're saying, that transition is going to be hard. And man, just leaning on God, cultivating that relationship again, because he was always there. He just wanted me to acknowledge that. And thankfully having my wife in my life to be there, and she's always been there for me. Sometimes when we were dating in college, me, pushing her away from, whether that was losing my dad or just the stress of changing positions, what I mean? She never turned her back on me either.
Yeah.
And in those dark times where, I got a kid, I got my wife, not doing what I love to do anymore. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know what's next for me. I'm trying to provide, you know what I mean? And it got to a point, man, I just put it all in God's hands. I was like, God, wherever you want me to be. I was living in Charlotte at the time. I was like, I'm putting it in your hands. And sure enough, one thing start falling into place after another. Start reaching out to people like yourself, people I knew who, you know, had just seen me in a lot of different phases of my life to even know where I was in that moment. And you know, it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
I still reach out to former teammates, you know, that are going through that transition too. And I just felt like it's going to happen for everybody. And I knew I was losing a step out on the field, and I could have probably pushed out another year or two, but I knew that it was inevitable that I was going to get to a point where I would have to embrace that transition. So I said, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust in God. And so far, man, it's been a journey, but it's been rewarding.
And it will continue to be rewarding,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what he promises us, you know, that the most often phrase that's used in the Bible is not love the Lord your God, which that's very important, but the most often used is do not be afraid because I am with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that journey, he is with us, and he wants us to have faith. And faith is believing in the things that you can't see.
Right.
So faith is not the opposite of faith, not really is just so much doubt as it is just walking on things that you actually see in front of you.
Right.
Faith is believing in the things that you can't see,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that this is where God is directing me or us to go. And that's what we anchor our trust in, you know, and that relationship is kindled and continue to be rekindled by staying in his word and growing in who we are. You know, you mentioned Kennedy, you mentioned your wife, you know, that, you know, the Bible says that he that finds a wife finds a good thing. You know, a wife of noble character is her husband's crown, you know. And I know that Kennedy is very gifted, man. She can do a whole lot of things, but I think probably other than, you know, her relationship with Christ is that she loves you, man. She loves you deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something she's always said that and shown that. What is that like to have a wife that and she's there
Yeah.
consistently?
Yeah. I mean, I tell her all the time, man, like, I don't know what I did to get so lucky. You know what I mean? Because when I say I tried everything to push her away, and a lot of people, you know what I mean? I think just from all the traumas and, you know, things that I've dealt with over time, she's been somebody that's just been constant of seeing the best in me, wanting to push me to be the best person I can be, and you know, not let me let off the gas, and still does that to this day. And at first, I never understood it, and I'm like, man, this girl's crazy, you know what I mean? Like I used to say everything that I could possibly conjure up in my head to like justify the fact that I had somebody in my corner that wanted to be and didn't have to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And man, I'm just so blessed to have her in my life, and then the blessing of us having our children and to see her in motherhood. I mean, it's a blessing. Like
Yeah.
I'm so lucky to have somebody like that, and you know, I hope everybody can find somebody like that, just because it just made me a better person. It's put my priorities in the slots that they need to be, and yeah, she's my life partner.
Yeah, that's good.
That's my road dog.
That's so good. You know, you mentioned your relationship with Christ. You mentioned, you know, tell us just like where did that start? You know, like obviously I've known your family for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but that side of it, your family, your people's always been good people.
Yeah.
You know, but like where did that start? Where did
Yeah.
you like your relationship with Christ? When did that in make its way onto the scene for you?
Yeah, so both of my parents were heavily involved in the church. My dad was a deacon. My mom, she was in the choir. Both sides of our family actually grew up in the same church, Highland Park. And man, like gave my life to Christ at a very young age. I think it was 11 at the time. So Vacation Bible School, you know what I mean, the whole nine. And I always had a strong relationship. Like I said, growing up, was in the church, and man, like throughout all the things that have happened in my life, just to see, you know, I think the example from my dad, him being the leader of the household and things not always going our way. Like I'm saying, like having my mom become sick, didn't never deter him from walking in, seeing them praying, you know, or having all of us pray, you know, all of us being in the living room reading the word, even when we didn't know what was next for us, you know what I mean? Just having that anchor in faith. And throughout my career, like I said, when times where I felt like, you know, I've asked God for forgiveness for not having him like as number one, it's been cool. And man, it's just his mercy, man. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's been times where I've been of the world, you know what I mean? And still for him to be there, you know, and still for him to have.
It's hard to define that. You know, when somebody says mercy or say grace, you know, it's hard to define it, but you know when you have felt it.
I'm telling you, because it washes over you. You know what I mean? You become new almost in a sense. And man, just even reflecting on where he's brought me from to know where my life is now, and like we were speaking to, going through that transition and some of the darkest days I've ever had in my life. Scary almost, you know what I mean? And to have nobody else to go to but him, and him be there.
Well, he's a good father.
Man.
And so you got to experience a good father, a really good father, with your dad. And now you get to be that. And tell us about you just being a father. How has that changed? What has being a father taught you?
Man, it taught me that. So with my daughter, we have my daughter first. Her name's Blue, and I didn't realize how hard I was. You know, like the moment I held her in my hands, it was almost so much. It was almost like a callus. All that just crumbled down. You know what I mean?
I got 3 girls. I know.
Like all that came crumbling down. You know what I mean? And I like to say she came at the best time. You know, she really changed my life, put things into perspective, and it forced me to put things that maybe that I was focused on out the picture. Because then I knew there was a life that I was responsible for. There was people that I needed to provide for. There was somebody that I'm setting an example for, that one day is gonna have someone that's somewhat similar to me. You know, so man, that was a moment that changed me for sure. And then shortly after that, we had our son, named after my dad, Wallace. We call him Ace, and man, he's just a joy. You know, he's fun to be around, and just the balance of just knowing, like, even now, like, everybody does things that they might not always love to do, but the love that fuels it is it's about the family. You know what I mean? They push me to just be better than I ever was as an athlete, be better than I ever was yesterday. You know, it force you to just be the best version of yourself, because there's a set of eyes that didn't actually be here, you know, and they're looking to somebody to set the example for them in a world that's crazy, you know?
Yeah. And regardless, you know, of what our day looks like, regardless of what we have handled that during day at work or whatever, when we go home, they don't care about that. They don't want your autograph.
No.
You know, they don't. You're more special to that. I mean, you're your dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to be able to have that title, husband, and then father, is there's nothing better than that.
Nah.
And so you're rich. You're rich. I'm rich, from the standpoint that I have a wife that truly loves me and pushes me to be the man that God's called me to be.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter's watching. Oh, I've been there where you're talking about, where your heart just kind of crumbles, and and even watching them grow up. And now I got it. She's a junior in college, and so to be able to watch her just flourish into her own woman
Mm-hmm.
that God's called her to be.
Yeah.
Taking some of those things that Tammy and I have been diligent at teaching, and that's become her own.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get that blessing as well, that we don't have to make a whole lot of money. We don't have to have the best of this and the best of that. That be faithful right where God has planted us. You talked about, you know, transitions from football. What's next? What are you doing now? What do you look to do? What's some things that's on your heart that, you know, maybe somebody listening, like, hey man, I need somebody like Reggie in my world, in my space, you know, as far as companies, businesses, executives, whatever. What are you doing now? What's something that God's put on your heart?
Yeah. So right now, just finishing up a year in orthopedic sales. It's been really cool kind of to be on the other side of, you know, some of the injuries that I myself have had, some of my teammates, to be in these operating rooms and kind of see just the magic that some of these doctors are able to do to help people, you know, get back, whether that's playing or just be everyday people, you know. So it's been really, really cool to kind of experience that working environment. And then outside of that, something that was just put on my heart, man, like trying to figure out what was next for me as far as giving back to the game. I really didn't feel like coaching was, you know, in my cards, and I, you know, was continuously asking God, like, man, you know, I've experienced perspectives in playing the game at a high level that a lot of people don't get to experience, whether that's playing quarterback, running back, receiver, all that. And man, just I'm talking about, you know how it is. Sometimes you have those conversations with God for extended periods of time because he's more so wanting you to work through it. And then once you get to a certain point, he'll put it on your heart. Yeah. And that's what it was for me. And what I'm really, really looking to do to help that next generation is really focus on that mental side of the game. Not so much as training and the physical aspect, but I think because my journey and some of the experiences that I've had, and you know, those ups and downs, whether that was on the field or off, I think it's, you know, it's my purpose to help that next generation, especially with so much going on, social media, and you know, the competitiveness and wanting to be the best. You really only competing with yourself a lot of the times, you know, and having God lead you on the path that He wants you to go. So I'm in the process of creating you know, some online courses and workbooks and things of that nature to help, you know, whether that's high school, little league, college, professional, whatever it is, just to help them on that mental side of the game, regardless of sport too. That's obviously, right. I have my expertise in football, but a lot of these principles and things carry over to, you know, any sport or just life in general. I think it's been healing for me to work on this just because of my transition as well. I was talking to Cameron, who's always behind the scenes and does a great job here with you. But this past year, first time I've ever even experienced like things like imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Just thinking like, man, I'm not qualified to be in here in this operating room or talk to this doctor about such and such. And really working through those things and finding some tools and things that can help, you know, and at the end of the day, that's all I want to do, and that's what I've always enjoyed doing, and that's what really just gives me a sense of purpose in life. You know, even when I was here at Louisville, I'd be the first one to jump on doing some community service, just because, you know, I've had friends that didn't live to see 17, you know, growing up. So just to know what a lot of people are up against, whether that's here or anywhere. So yeah, that's what I'm up to right now, and being a dad, and you know, just enjoying life after ball, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
That's good stuff. Really good. We'll do a little lightning round here real quick, man. Just ask you some questions. This first thing that pops to your mind. Most talented player that you ever played with?
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson. I figured you was going to say that. What about best teammate? Best teammate that you ever had in college?
In college? Man, I'm not going to really single out just one person, because there's so many people that helped me along the way.
Yeah.
But one that sticks out just comes to mind just because it was fresh. And a buddy of mine just saw him the other day. And it was my freshman year. Quick story. But to answer your question, Dominique Brown.
Yeah.
I was a freshman. You know, we were playing. I would start like 6 or 7 games. So there was times I'd be quarterback, you know, I'd struggle one game, come back next game, have a good game. And I remember one time I come to my locker, you know, and must have, you know, been one of those games I was going to play. Dominique actually wrote me a letter and was like, "Yo, Reg, I believe in you." You know what I mean? And that like really touched me, man. And I just thought I was just sharing that story with somebody else yesterday, but just to single him out. But man, I mean, if I start listing everybody, we'd be here all day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give you 3 on coaches, okay? Just where you kind of think it through. I'm gonna say best coach, most challenging coach, and the most encouraging coach.
Okay.
Right? Best coach.
Best coach. Coach McGee.
Coach McGee.
Coach McGee.
Okay, I like that.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Most challenging coach.
Coach Virginia.
I think you take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
I really do.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of most encouraging.
Most encouraging. You know what? He's not. I don't know what he is, but he's on the staff now. I say he's a godfather, but Coach Oscar Brown. He was actually my quarterback coach in high school, but he's just always been in my corner, man. You know, he's always just steady. You know, whether it was up or down, good game, bad game. Because Oscar just has a demeanor about him that's just constant. I always, any chance I get to just holler at him or just tell him how much I appreciate him. Yeah, that's one of my guys. And I can't forget Coach G.
Coach G.
Coach G. Yeah, Coach G.
Coach G's doing good, man.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Coach G definitely. He was always one of those too.
Well, man, I've really enjoyed time with you, man. Thanks I love you. I'm proud of you.
Love you
It's
too.
great to see the husband and the father that you are, and striving to be the man that God's called you to be. Because I don't think we never arrive in this. You know, sometimes it feels like we take 5 steps forward and take 15 back. But as long as we keep keeping our eyes focused upon Him, that it's not what we do, but it's what He's already done.
Right.
And that's the power of the gospel. That we just grab a hold of that. So, man, thanks for coming on. Super proud of you. Stay connected, and I know it's gonna be some good stuff for you.
Most definitely.
So, love you, buddy.
Appreciate you. Love you too, man.